Okay, it says it now. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Brigadier Sushil Bhasin, and today we are here to talk about TEDx is a different ballgame. Now, let me begin by saying that I have been a speaker for the last 50 years, and I've done a lot of training speaking, but it is the first time that I realized that going for a TEDx was so different from any other professional or public speaking. And therefore, I thought I'll share my views and my experiences so that those who are preparing for any short format talk like the TEDx, so we are not talking about TEDx as such, but we are talking about short format talks like TEDx or Bringle talks or Josh talks or many other like MS talks. There are a whole lot of them. So whenever you have a limited time, which is anything from 6 to 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, these other type of talks we are talking about. But why particularly about TEDx is that in the international field, this has become to be one of the most acceptedly popular and most coveted talks. And everyone normally aspires to be there. So here we are, starting with a little PowerPoint, and let me share my presentation with you. So here we go to the presentation. Right. Okay. So I just told you this, that I've been speaking for a long time, but but TEDx is a totally different experience. Now let's go further. Firstly, I'm not representing TED in any way, nor am I an authority on the subject. I'm not sharing any official information, but just sharing my personal experience. Take it for whatever it may be worth. Now, just to cover a small introduction or a historical perspective, TED started in 1984, and what it was called was Technology, Entertainment, and Design. This was the acronym which formed out of these three things which TED was working on. That means these were the three areas in which people were coming out with their talks. But now it has spread to almost all types of topics, from science to business to global issues to any other thing. Also, from 1984 till today, lots of changes have taken place, and it has spread to 110 languages across the globe. And now TED started giving licenses to people who could run on these programs on their behalf locally, and these are called TEDx events. There are two types there also. One are the colleges or the institutions. So you will normally find TEDx and then the name of the college. Or there are the geographical city-wise. For example, like in Mumbai, it is called TEDx Gateway or TEDx Pune and things like that. We all know that TED is all about ideas worth spreading. I want you to keep this in mind. We're going to be talking a little more about what do we mean when we say ideas worth spreading. Sorry. Okay. Now, when you choose to be a TEDx speaker, you must be very clear as to why you want to be a TEDx speaker. You must write down what all are you wanting to achieve. Is it just the fame? Is it credibility? Is it professional speaking skills, enhancement, or whatever? And then make an aim for yourself. By when do you want to get on a TEDx? And what is it that you want to achieve after that? Now, let me cover something which I call science and art of public speaking. When we are talking about the science and art, I'm saying that one is the art of it. Art of it is the way you go and speak, the way you go and create an impact, the way you engage the audience by your aura, by your charisma, by your uh, delivery, by your gestures, by your body language, all that put together. That is the art of public speaking. And one of these things is that you have to rehearse. And when we are rehearsing the same speech, it becomes very boring. But when we are talking about the science of it, that is how TED.com lays down that these are the things, these are the do's and don'ts, these are the code of conduct for TEDx talks. So when you want to be a TEDx speaker, I think the first step is that you have to go to this website and study this website very well. Now, you will get a whole lot of things that I'm talking about. You'll understand why and how TEDx operates, and therefore be prepared accordingly. When it comes to developing the art now, we are talking about developing your ideas. And that is when you have to work on your story, on your idea, and then work so creatively around it. Okay, so that is your art. So the rules, the boundaries that bind us will be the science, and the art is everything that goes around to making it creative, innovative, and making it impactful. Now, how is TEDx different from any other platform like that? So the first thing is the duration, of course, that it's a shorter duration. So what happens? For example, in my life, I've been doing programs which are at least a day, if not 2 to 3 days programs. So you get to know the audience. It may take you 2 to 3 hours to get familiar with what the audience is looking for and things like that. Enough time for you to maneuver and manipulate the rest of the subject. So now that doesn't happen in a TED Talk. TED Talk is more or less a monologue. Very, very limited interaction is possible. And we'll talk about that later in our advanced programs. What is the difference between different types of TEDx talks? The college type of talks are only about 100 people, whereas the city type of talks can go up to even 1,000 to 2,000 people. So there's a different way to interact with the audience, but very limited interaction for now on. The second thing is that there's a demand of a very powerful speech. Why? Because you're going to condense the entire subject into just 18 minutes. When you're going to condense that into 18 minutes, you have no leeway of maneuverability. You can't manipulate. So you have to almost mug up. When I say almost, your lines have to come to you fluently. Rehearsals have to be done. But still, you have to speak from your heart and not from your head. And therefore, it is not mugging up, and yet it is mugging up. What this means is you have to be so fluent at it, it comes to you naturally. You don't fumble for words. There are no ahas and ums, and all that is to be avoided totally. And you don't restructure the sentences as you go along, which we normally in our spoken language can do. And it can happen in training. It can happen in long speeches. Next is the audience. Now that's a big challenge. The challenge is that now if I am sitting in front of a video, of course this is live, but if I have to record a video, a training video or a speech for say YouTube, and I'm doing it in a studio, I can edit it a couple of times. I can stop, pause, look up my lines again, and all that. While TEDx is also happening on a YouTube format, but yet you can do no editing like that because you are standing in front of a live audience. When you're standing in front of a live audience with certain restrictions like that red carpet that you can't move out of the 6 feet diameter, so you are restricted to a space and you are focused onto an audience. So while you're actually engaging this physical audience, you also have to keep in mind that your actual audience is not this. Your actual audience is the globe, where you don't know the type of age group, the type of people who are sitting there. You have no clue of who's going to be watching, in which part of the world. And therefore, Your audience, in addition to the audience sitting in the hall, which could be college students, which could be anyone else, but the main audience, the bulk of the audience is somebody you don't know. So you have to make it so generic and cater for these two types of audiences. Now, preparing for a TEDx talk. This is something I like you to really understand. The first thing is that TEDx is not about how good a speaker you are. So when we go and apply and nominate ourselves for a TEDx talk on the TED.com, we all start focusing on, and they ask you, where all have you spoken? So you worry more about convincing them that you are a great speaker, you can speak very well, you've spoken to audiences of so-and-so. So your general focus is on trying to convince the organizers and that you are a good speaker. But TEDx is not as good about speaking, or not as important as speaking. It's about the idea that you have. So when you start preparing for TED, please first look at what is a great idea you have. And sometimes it may take you a year and a half, 2 years to come out with an idea which you think can sell. The idea, when I say sell, means the idea which will be accepted, which will be received, which will also create a type of an impact that you want to. Now apply and get invited. So one is that there is a nomination form on the website that I just showed you earlier, TED.com. There are two options there. One is to nominate self, and one is to nominate somebody else. Now, ideally, you should get nominated by somebody else. There's a tip I must give you, which not many people tell us. Self-nominations are generally so many in number, and you have on the website a note saying that we get too many of these requests, so you may or may not get a reply. So at the outset, he's telling you that you may not get a reply. And to many people I have spoken to who have been on the TEDx stage tell me that they got invited either by their public image and people knowing about them, or a college or an organization doing a good search and looking for people, and your subject or your online presence or your offline presence somewhere, they got to know and they invited you. Or the best way is get yourself nominated by somebody else. That's a good way of doing. And I'm not saying out of any evidence, but it's just an idea. You may try and get nominated by more than one person. So get some of your speaker friends and who know you, and if they are prepared to invest that type of time in filling up the form for you and saying, I nominate so-and-so. So try that. Then is the content preparing. Let me tell you, this is the toughest part. Now you have to write a script. And to share my personal experience, first time in my life I wrote a script was for TEDx. I've generally gone with some bullet points and I just go and speak my heart out. But this is the first time I had to write a script. And not once or twice. I had to rewrite till I could get that into that 18 minutes frame. Very difficult it was. Now, the next is a structure, which we'll just talk about in a while. And of course, today it's a 15-minute talk, so I'm not going to be able to give you the details of the structure, but I'll give you a fair idea. And then, of course, people who do their advanced programs or coaching programs with us, we cover this in much greater detail. The next is rehearse. Now, once you've got your content ready, your script is ready, it's been structured well, then you freeze on the content. We have a tendency of keeping on modifying till the end, which I did. And I would strongly recommend that we don't do it. Good about a month and a half before your date of talk, You should have frozen the content, and after you don't add a word and you keep rehearsing this. And once you have rehearsed and you're ready, then what do? Rehearse. And after that, what do? Rehearse. This is the most important part of TEDx preparation that I must share with you. Now, 5 areas of focus, and this is the main subject of today's talk. So the first thing I told you was idea. Let the idea be a single idea. In 18 minutes, you can't have a bunch of ideas. That one idea may have 2 to 3 subparts. Don't make it more than 3. Max 5 if you can bring them out absolutely like bullet points, and which don't require too much of an explanation. But I would strongly recommend an idea with maximum 3 subpoints. Okay. Then you package the whole thing in the form of a story, which is either a true story or even a fabricated story or related to a story that existed somewhere, so that to the audience, it is a story. Whose story? Ideally, it should be your story. Or something that happened in your life where you may not, it didn't happen to you, but you saw it happening. And as I said, it should, in those 18 minutes, create that impact. Now the structure. The structure of the talk, we normally say there should be about 5 parts of a talk. The talk must start and end with a bang. It has to be a punch in the beginning, has to be a punch in the end. Remember that. Now, normally, let me explain to you firstly in a very metaphorical way. That just imagine you're going to take off in a flight. So your beginning of the talk starts with taxiing. Where you're coming out with an idea. Best is to start with a problem statement or something that is affecting us. So that's a problem statement, which is a part of the taxi. And then you say, I have an idea. This is a problem. The population of the country is exploding. And if we continue like this, we can't survive. I have an idea. Now, you don't say this, but you bring about in the story about your idea, which should now give the audience and make them sit up in their seats. Oh, he's going to give us a solution to this population problem. And then you go up and build up that curiosity. And in building up that curiosity, come out with evidence. And evidence is what? Some research, some facts that we know. Okay. So you say that we know, or it is research shows, or McKinsey's report of so-and-so says that this, if the number of accidents keep increasing in Mumbai, then in the end of 2 years, this would happen. Okay. Now, these 3 things, which is the problem statement, the idea, and the evidence, should take you into your curiosity level and bring you to a cruising level. Now is your flight when you're cruising. And cruising is your content. This content should form about 40 to 60% of the total time that you have. And here are the main content of your program. Your idea, like you say, what you could do is this and this and this, 3 ideas, 4 ideas, 4 parts of that one idea we're talking about. And then this should have a certain amount of story, substance, and along with that, now is the time you need to show your emotions, your gestures, your pauses, your body language. All that comes into that 40 to 60% time where you keep the audience totally engaged. And then in the end, we come to the landing. And the landing is your call to action. What do you want the audience to think, feel, and do after the program, after they walk out of the hall or after your session is over? Every time I would recommend very strongly that write down those three things. What should the audience think, feel, and do after your program? Should be up on your wall, which you should see day in and day out. And every time when you're writing the script, you're working on an idea, every time check back, what is that going to contribute to either of these three things that will happen to the audience? And if you are laser focused on this part, then every word, I'm not saying every sentence, please remember, every word that you speak, because you'll be cutting down, and I've been doing that. You know that there are about 100 to 120 words per minute. Okay. So if you're doing 18 minutes, it can't be more than 15 to 1600 words of your script. Depending on how many pauses you are making, what stories are you showing, is there an acting that you're doing, is there a theatrical part of it? All that put together is going to decide how many minutes. I would very strongly recommend and encourage you to plan only 15-minute speech and keep that 3 minutes for those unforeseen pauses, areas that you may add a line or two or whatever. So in a TEDx talk, if you plan for 14 to 15 minutes and be prepared for that, you will not be crossing the time limit. And it's not only for TEDx, but as a keynote speaker, I have realized that one of the most important things is to keep to time. So therefore, you must finish at 18 minutes. Now you can't abruptly finish. So you should know, and you have a timer all the time. You should know that in the last 3 minutes, you should know when my landing starts. And when it's 3 minutes left, you should jump to that landing so that your landing is smooth. Don't land with a jerk. You know what happens when you have a crash landing. So content I've already covered in the structure, and then I've already spoken about rehearsals. Now, according to Chris Anderson's book on TEDx, he says that you should be doing at least 40 to 60 rehearsals of the talk. I couldn't do that many, but what I realized is that probably what he's saying is right. You need that many. So be prepared to rehearse and rehearse. How I recommend and encourage people to do it is, first you keep reading your script and read it off the paper and time it well. So record it, audio record it, time it. Then you reach a level where you compare your audio notes with your notes. Stop reading the paper now, do an audio recording and see what all are you missing out of the script that you have written. Once you're perfect with that, then get on to a video. Record your video, see the time, watch yourself on the video and see where you require to change your gestures, where you need to increase your pauses, etc. And then practice again. Second recording, third recording. You should be doing at least 15 to 20 video recordings before you land up on the stage and practice at least 10 times. So this is the type of importance of rehearsal if you're going to be going for a TEDx talk and you want to get those million views. Audience. We have just covered that, so I don't want to repeat. Remember that your audience is dual, one sitting in the hall and rest all around the world, all ages, all communities, all languages, all religions. Now, are you really serious? And if you're serious about TEDx, let me tell you one thing. First of all, tell yourself it requires lots and lots of hard work. So if you feel that going on a TEDx talk and becoming famous or getting you credibility or building your image is easy, let me tell you it's not easy. You really, really have to slog. You have to work hard. And if you really want to do it, again, I'll encourage you to have a mentor. Somebody who knows, could be somebody from Toastmasters, could be somebody who's already a professional speaker, somebody whom you have confidence in, and somebody whom you like to emulate, and somebody who has time for you, somebody who's going to be investing that time in sailing you through. This person should be with you, send him your videos, this and that, and then I had a mentor who came to my house, helped me. He watched my rehearsal, and wrote down notes, and he had 2 pages of notes in a 18-minute talk. So you need somebody like that who is a friend, but a friend who is prepared to be frank and tell you things that are wrong and not necessarily keep clapping for everything you do. So that's all I had to say today. If you are serious and you want to get into this hand holding, Bringle Academy is organizing this type of coaching and mentoring. And if you are interested, please get in touch with Bringle Academy. And this is the Bringle Academy website. Please write your queries, contact them for details, and we'll all, as a Bringle team, bring forward to you an experience that you would have never had before. So thank you very much. It's been wonderful being with you. And any suggestions, any ideas, any queries, any questions, please forward them at www.bringleacademy.com, and we'll be very happy to help you. Thank you and good night.